Hey folks, thanks for joining us again on our Tampa Florida Living podcast. Today, I have my beautiful sister here joining me. She's been a realtor on our team for, a handful of years, helping us out with that. But I thought there was nobody better to join me on today's podcast, talking about the things to do in Tampa, the good, the bad. We're going to kind of dissect them, but today's a little bit different. I bought this book, if you can see that. It's, titled 100 Things to Do in Tampa Bay Before You Die. I bought this book a couple years back, and it's funny because as a local or longtime, native, we're both born and raised here. There's so many good things that, the author wrote in this book, but, I want to go through to share our experiences, add a few that were not in the book, and then maybe even tell you like, hey, you might want to skip some of these. So if you're visiting or you live here, it doesn't matter. This is going to be a really good podcast for you. So starting off right away, we're going to start off with, food and drink. We have a food background, family-owned restaurant for, 50 plus years. So we're definitely a little bit of a food snob, right? What would you say is the hands down number one restaurant if you have to, if you're experiencing Tampa and you're, visiting or you live here, what's one that you have to just try out?
Hands down, I'd say Burns Steakhouse. They've got an awesome bar while you're waiting. You can grab a drink. They have a really cool ambiance that you're not going to find in any other restaurant here. They have a huge wine collection that they're very well known for. You can do a tour in the middle of dinner. Their cellars, they
have 600,000 bottles of wine. It's the largest private wine selection, I guess, in the world. So that's one of the big things there. I mean, we've got a long history with Burns, just being in the hospitality business, going in there since we were little kids. And, it's not everybody gets it. The food is good. I mean, I could almost challenge it with a couple different restaurants, food quality wise, but the experience is one of those things that you just can't beat, right? You sit there. I mean, we've closed down that restaurant a handful of times, just eating and drinking long time. But a few things that stick out about Burns to make your experience special, right? Definitely have reservations. Get in there and don't be in a rush, right? Enjoy the entire meal. Then I would say you have to go upstairs. The dessert room is one of the best. It's like an old speakeasy that was converted into now a dessert room. They have a piano player playing. My kids, I just took them recently kind of for their first experience to Burns. And they thought it was the craziest thing that there was an old telephone like on the wall, and they would pick it up and, they're like, Dad, there's music playing from it. And I was like, yeah, you can make a request from the guy that's on the piano player, even though you're in your own little speakeasy dessert booth, right?
Yeah.
So she's like, do you know if he knows Taylor Swift? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's try it. So she picks up the phone, says, hey, do you know Taylor Swift? And he's like, I got you. So boom. Plays Taylor Swift. And she's like, oh my God. So really cool experience the entire family can enjoy. And it's absolutely a staple. I'm glad that the author put that in the book because that is number one. So
for sure.
Moving along, here's a local hidden gem. Throughout this list, I'm going to pluck out the big ones like Burns, Busch Gardens, the things that are kind of the obvious. But I also want to throw in some hidden gems that really only the locals know about. And clearly the author experienced them. So, Parksdale Farms. Most people don't know this, but Plant City is just east of Tampa. It's one of the, biggest citrus crops, farms, growers, whatever you want to call it, in the state of Florida. Tons of strawberry fields, tons of blueberry fields. The Strawberry Festival is something that, has been a long time tradition. It's like a 2-week festival. And it's really for the agriculture, which was that area. Stemming off of that, one of the biggest growers or the biggest farms is Parksdale Farms. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, it's not like a massive thing. It's just a stand on the side of the road. Kind of, it's over the years, it's become a little bit bigger, but you will get the best strawberry shortcake and the best strawberry milkshake that you've ever had. Super fresh right now. My daughter actually has them throw a little coconut in there to spice it up. But if you get a chance, you're headed to Plant City, stop over at Parksdale Farms to get a strawberry milkshake, and you'll thank me later. Next on that list, this is even a bigger tradition in Tampa. Right? Tampa has a long history with, Cuban, Spanish, Italian, German immigrants. That's the roots of Tampa. And so Cuban bread is a massive staple here in Tampa. It's like what you grow up with for breakfast, right? Cuban toast, buttered, pressed, little café con leche to go with that. La Segunda was named. I mean, what's your experience with La Segunda Bakery?
I mean, yeah, hands down, their Cuban bread's the best. Anytime I think of like, you know, a Cuban sandwich, like if it doesn't have La Segunda's bread, like
then it's not as good.
I don't really want it.
Yeah.
And you know, recently, like they opened their second location. Right?
Yep. Yeah, the original was in Ybor.
Yeah.
I think it's over 100 years old.
Yeah.
And then now the secondary location, with same family too, is in off of Kennedy in South Tampa. And I personally like to go to that location.
Yeah, closer to our house.
It's close to the house, but it's you get Wi-Fi. You could sit down. It's more of a cafe style, where the old Ybor one is just pick up your bread, pick up your pastry, and go. Right.
Yeah.
So really nice location on Kennedy if you want to sit, relax, and enjoy it. Or I think you mentioned this off camera, like it's one of the best Cuban sandwiches in Tampa.
It really is.
So you can easily grab that and go, especially if, you know, when I go and show homes to people, we're out looking at real estate. There's nothing better than grabbing that sandwich and saying, hey, hit the road. And it's a good place to meet in the morning too, to have a coffee.
It is. I was gonna say, if you're a morning person, like, and you want your, you know, cafe con leche and toast, cheese toast, if you want to get crazy, like they do that. I know when I have people, you know, friends and stuff that come into town, like I do kind of brag a little bit on their Cuban sandwich, and I always order a bunch of those, and they'll cut them in like fourths. I mean,
everybody can share.
Yeah.
So it's a little taste of Tampa there. Next up, it's not Tampa. It's part of Tampa Bay. It's in Clearwater. I actually got married right on the sand, right on the beach, right outside of it. Frenchie's, Rockaway Grill. And they have a couple of different Frenchies, but personally, I like the Rockaway Grill right in Clearwater Beach. It's right, let's see. You go to Pier 60, make it right. What is that, south? Or no, north?
That would be north.
So you go north of Pier 60, Frenchie's Rockaway Grill is right there. One of the best, you know, one of the best grouper sandwiches. I mean, it's fresh. You get the feeling because you're on the beach. You hear the waves. They usually have a little music playing in the background.
Yeah.
You know, I just shot this on our IG channel on Instagram, and, you know, had a ton of comments like, oh my God, that looks amazing. Like, what a nice ambiance and just really relaxed beach bar. So, you know, definitely stop to Frenchie's, you know, grill to get that grouper sandwich, get that taste of Tampa, a little bit of seafood. People forget that we have that right there at the beaches. Now, bringing it back to the city. I love the old historic buildings. I love the old, you know, character, and some of these places, you know, while this next place is not, you know, in old tradition, like a Burns.
No, it's a little more modern.
Like La Segunda. Oxford Exchange is an 1800s-year-old building, but they've renovated. I want to say it was the Casper's group went in there and renovated it. And man, what a awesome concept. You know, kind of like a social club. You can geek out with like a foodie restaurant, tea, coffee, champagne
like
bar.
Greenhouse vibe, like kind of like.
Yeah, open top roof.
Yeah.
Glass roof, I mean, not open top. So
those.
that you could just get a ton of sunlight coming in. The whole vibe there is that it's almost like a little social hub where people can go and get your coffee bar. You know, go to get your coffee at the bar.
Tea.
Go get your tea.
Whatever.
There's lounges and chairs and everything. And it's just, I don't know. It's a really nice, slower pace to just visit with friends and family or visitors, right? And a hell of a meal, because that menu at Oxford
I like
Exchange,
their brunch.
yeah, the brunches. Every time you look at like top 10 brunches in Tampa, it's on that list. So Oxford Exchange must visit in my eyes. It's just a fun.
It's
again,
also
slow pace.
a wedding venue.
Okay, didn't know that.
Yes,
didn't know that.
That's how pretty it is.
I'm sure it's a pretty penny too.
Yeah.
All right. So this one you have to consider when we're talking about food and drink. It's the 1905 family of restaurants. What does that mean? Well, the Columbia restaurant, that's like one of the longest, you know, family-owned restaurant chains in Tampa. I say chain because now they've grown, but the Columbia restaurant's right there in Ybor City. Spanish cuisine, you know, flamenco dancers. I mean, it's just a really neat vibe, and it's one of those things you just have to try. But part of that family, you know, Richard Gonsmart is the Gonsmarts is the family. They went out and branched out and created other restaurants, right? So Eulalie Restaurant over on the Riverwalk, they took over the brand Goody Goody, which is a burger spot in South Tampa. And then they opened up Casa Stefano, which is an Italian restaurant with a rooftop bar also in Ybor.
Yeah.
And they specifically went to Sicily to get all of those Sicilian recipes. So really authentic stuff. That brand, I almost feel like you can't go wrong with any of their restaurants.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of my favorites, though, hands down, would be Ukulele. So put that on a must try.
I agree. It's overlooking the river. You can catch a sunset. You can go outside and stroll.
Yeah.
Char grilled oysters, right?
Yeah.
It's hands down, it's amazing. All right, so we're switching gears here. That next, section in the book, it talks about music and entertainment, right? So music and entertainment, it's kind of a funny one. There wasn't a ton of music in that section. There was a couple little ones, but I'm going to start with some of that, like the fun thing to do here, which was Wiki Wachi. And I'm going to give you something. I'm going to go against the grain on this one for a minute. It talked about visiting the mermaids at Wiki Wachi. Can you explain what Wiki Wachi is? Because mermaids, we were like, what is that?
Number one, it's a spring. So, it's crystal clear water. It's cold.
Yeah, they're natural springs coming from the aquifer, right?
Yeah, it is beautiful. But growing up, you just know that like the mermaids are there, and you walk by and the mermaids are going underwater, and it's a person. Literally.
Yeah, it's like a show.
Yeah,
they're mermaids with a fake mermaid tail,
and
oxygen tank, and they're underwater, right?
Yeah.
Like scuba diving kind of thing.
Kind of scuba dancing.
Yeah, scuba dancing. There you go.
Yeah.
Never thought of that way. And the kids love it, right?
Yeah.
But it's so short lived.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're a visitor and you're visiting Wiki Wachi, I don't want to tell you don't visit the mermaids, but it's underwhelming for me.
Yeah.
I personally go to Wiki Wachi almost yearly to go to the springs. And what does that mean? You can float for miles down these springs. Beautiful. I mean, you can see the bottom. It's crystal clear water. It is cold. It's chilly. It's like 72 degrees, I think, all year round. All year round. But that's nice, May, June, July, when it's hot as hell out because we're approaching summer. It's just a nice way to cool down. And you can rent kayaks, canoes, local tip, rent from somebody that launches on the upstream so that you're just floating down the river. Very little effort. Bring some lunch and you can pull off. There's some sandy beach spots along the way. But there's a lot of people that rent downstream, and I see them struggling, paddling against the stream the whole time. I'm like, guys, come on. So local tip there, start upstream. You're going to have an amazing day. You're going to see some really cool wildlife, and don't be scared off by it. I think the raccoon might be the scariest thing on the entire spring. Dress like a pirate. That was on the list. This might be the favorite.
Yeah, for music and entertainment. Yeah.
Yeah, might be my favorite. Dress like a pirate. I mean, what does that even mean? Well, Gasparilla Parade is what it's all about, and really, it's Gasparilla season.
Yeah, it's almost a month.
It might be over a month, but that season is Gasparilla Parade, Gasparilla Distance Classic. So we're talking 5K, half marathon, and on and on. Where we have the music fest, the art festival, the kids parade, the adult parade, which is a night parade. And then we have the main Gasparilla Festival, which is one of the largest in the country. I mean, think Macy's. We're talking 1 million plus people at times that just flood Bayshore, which is on the water. And it's about a 4-mile parade, right? The idea behind it is Jose Gaspar was a pirate that basically wrecked the entire coast of Florida, just wrecked ships, and he was, a big treasure guy, right? And so the whole idea behind it, and this is like 100+ year tradition.
Yeah, this is,
that all these boats, and we do have a pirate ship here in Tampa that stays in the bay, but it comes in and everybody jumps on boats and I mean, it's a crazy scene, but they just follow the pirate ship in. All the pirates jump on land, the parade starts. And then at the end, it has to do with the mayor and the key to the city. And I mean, pirates are shooting these blanks, but shooting guns off and cannons and throwing beads, kind of Mardi Gras style. And I mean, it's just, the adult parade has alcohol. So if you're the adults, you want to have fun, that's where it's at. But the kids parade is beautiful. I've got a 9 and a 5-year-old, and I take them and they love it. There's no alcohol. So it's definitely a little more chilled down version. And I mean, if you can hit that up in January, that is one of the wildest and most fun events you'll have in all of Tampa. And you'll see the entire city hanging, pirate reefs on their front door and decorating their cars with flags and you name it. It's just a really cool thing. Visit the birthday cake, right? Visit the birthday cake. It's funny off camera. She's like, what's the birthday cake? I'm like, come on, you're a local. You know what this is? And she's like, no, I don't. And I said, it's the Don Cesar.
And I was like, oh, the Pink Castle. got it.
Yes.
And he's like, but think about it.
Yeah, it looks like a birthday cake if you really look at it. But it is a massive hotel, old school hotel, has a lot of character to it. But I think it's also one of like the bougiest or ritziest hotels in a good way. They absolutely, I mean, you're going to pay for it, but they absolutely cater to you. But here's what I'll say as a visitor: it's like, I don't have $500-600 a night to go to the Don. No problem. They have a day pass. You can get a visitor's day pass. Go ahead and buy that. Go park at the Don. You can get access to the pool. They have a private beach with cabana. You can order lunch while you're just honestly just totally unwinding and feeling like you're one of them bougie people
like
for the day.
you're a resident right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that idea. I love that you cannot go wrong if you visit the Don, and you will absolutely feel just rested after one good day, you know, especially with that day pass in the pool and everything else. So next up, Tropicana Field, play with the Rays. So we're not talking go play baseball with the Rays at Tropicana Field. We're talking professional baseball, right? What are we talking about?
They actually have a tank where you can
Center field.
Yeah, like it's a big deal. Like you can go and you can pet the stingrays. You know, I think that's a huge attraction for the kids. I think that's one of your kids' favorites things.
Yeah, for Floridians, I mean, it's like, oh, look, another stingray. Great.
Right. There's a lot of that
if you're
here.
from like Iowa, you're gonna be like, can we touch it? What do we do there? And it's just a really cool experience, especially for the kids, right? My kids love the Rays games, and I know that the Rays don't have the best following. Like, you know, they're like, it's in St. Pete, the stadium, and blah blah blah. But the games are amazing because they're cheap tickets. You get in there, you know, get a hot dog, peanuts at the game. You know, my kids have to get Dippin' Dots. So, and then it's like always like every other inning, we're kind of like, hey, Dad, Dippin' Dots. Hey, let's go pet the Rays before 7th inning. And so it's just an amazing experience. So I think a Rays game is a must, but you have a favorite.
I do have a favorite. You know, if you're going to hit a sporting event in Tampa, like I like the Lightning. You know, I never thought I would be a hockey fan per se.
Florida and ice, you don't think it goes.
But, you know, we are blessed to have a pretty good team lately for a few years here. And I think it's just an electrifying stadium. Like, it's an awesome experience.
Yeah, there's almost not a bad seat. I mean, maybe the nosebleeds, but outside of that, there's almost not a bad seat.
Yeah.
And it's just, everything is super high action.
Yeah.
On top of that, Jeff Vinnick, the owner of the Lightning, just really, you know, inputs and gives back into the community with the development and everything else. He's really kind of there for the community in the city of Tampa. And so I really think people can see that, feel it. And it doesn't hurt that we have a really good, you know, playoff worthy team just about every year.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like the Lightning is our biggest following here in Tampa, bigger than the Bucks, bigger than the Rays. And yeah, the games are phenomenal. So, you know, next up, this is going to be my favorite. This was the biggest game changer in Tampa in probably the last 50 years, if I have to really go back and think about it. But that's the Tampa Riverwalk. If you haven't experienced the Tampa Riverwalk, it's the newest, brightest, shining object. I mean, all of the development in Tampa, I feel like, is somehow branching off of this.
Yeah.
But it's a 2.5 mile boardwalk, the Hillsborough River, from basically the Heights area, which is like mid Tampa, I guess, an older historic area, follows it all the way into downtown and then wraps around to our Channelside district. So let's kind of give you a quick rundown of what I would do or what you would do if you wanted to experience it, like northern anchor all the way to the southern anchor. I mean, where would you start?
You know, I would start at Armature Works. I would get, you know, if you're gonna maybe start around 4 o'clock, like.
You're going evening.
I'm going evening.
Okay.
I have a plan.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab.
And for folks that don't know, Armature Works is like a massive food hall, right? It's a big old industrial building that was converted to a food hall right on the river, and then there's like really nice green space outside, family oriented, and then it's just one of those things where it's like that in alone in itself is like a hub.
That's a whole day if you want. You can spend it there.
You could. So you start there, park there, and then where you go?
I'd probably grab a drink or something at the rooftop bar there. You know, or Eulalie, like we said, in that 1905 family.
Restaurant, brewery.
Yeah,
really
something
nice
there. Just a quick
spot.
something. Okay. And then I'd probably, walk down.
Would you go Uber scooter? You could rent an Uber scooter. You could rent bikes. You could rent a paddleboard if you really wanted to.
You could.
Or would you just Uber to your next spot?
I guess maybe for that stretch, I would Uber, especially if I'm doing it at that time. It can be a little hot sometimes.
Yep. Are you have kids with you or no kids?
Oh man, I'm gonna go.
You're like,
I'm
no?
gonna go kidless this time.
All right, she's going deep into the night here. I could tell.
Yeah.
All right, so you move up the Riverwalk. Where's your next spot along the Riverwalk?
Gosh, I feel like we did this the other day too with family and friends.
Sail Pavilion.
I wouldn't even go that far yet. I mean,
Oh.
You could hit like right past Curtis Hickson. There's like, isn't it Four Corners or something like that? It's like one of these little.
I just did the Riverwalk video too. Right. I didn't see that. The little the Irish bar.
Place.
Yes. There's an Irish pub.
It's like a little hidden thing.
You went detailed on that. Okay.
Yeah, no.
So there is an Irish bar. So essentially the Riverwalk, as you make your way through, there's museums. There's actually like a history lesson. There's like these bronze head statues that tell like important figures that had something, input in Tampa, the growth of Tampa along the way. But you can stroll the whole thing. You could jump into an Uber and just say, hey, I'm going to save myself a half-mile walk. But once you get there, there's Irish bar. There's Curtis Hickson Park. Sometimes there's a festival going on there that you can pit stop into, or music or something. I know around Christmas time, you can ice skate there.
Yeah.
So that's always really
Florida.
cool. Winter, what's it called? Winter Wonderland. Yeah. Then from there, you're going to hit the Sail Pavilion.
Yeah. That's
the convention center. The Sail Pavilion is or Sail Plaza, I think now it's called. You can park there as well. They've got it's like a splash ride.
Ferry thing?
No. It's like a super splash ride. I forget. It's like the Tampa Bay Rocket or something. But it's like seats like 30 people when it goes out there and you get super wet. Definitely a touristy thing. For me, I like the e-boats, electric boats. You can rent them and just go like with two of you. Or we actually did this at Sunset the other day. It was a friend's birthday. They allow you to bring your own alcohol and food. So we had a charcuterie, a couple bottles of wine, maybe some tequila. And we got on there, and it has a nice roof on. You blast the music, hook it up to your Bluetooth, and you can go all the way up and down the river exploring. Goes about 5 miles an hour. Yeah, you're not going to hurt anybody. Yeah, it's just cruising and having a good time. And that runs about $90 an hour. So, I mean, for $90, we had a really good, just quick, charcuterie and drinks.
Yeah.
From there, we went out to the Sail Pavilion. They had some music playing.
That's also right where the Lightning play. That area right there. So
a little bit further up. There's still, you got to turn the corner.
Yeah, it's right there.
Not yet.
Across the street.
Now the Sail Pavilion is a convention center. So you have, what's Nikki Cruz's place, man? The seafood place. Big Ray's Fish Camp. Yeah, Big Ray's Fish Camp is there for like conch fritters. Got to try that. Then you turn the corner.
Sorry.
And now you're going to start to get into Channel Side. So you have the Amalie Arena, which is all the concerts, the Lightning play and all that. And then I feel like you're into a whole new city now.
Yeah, now you're in that. Yeah.
Now you get into Water Street.
Spend my night there.
Yeah. So take back over your night. You're passing the Amalie Arena.
Yep.
Do you go across the street to the what is it? The Yard House?
Yeah, I mean, you could. I'm gonna probably save my next drink for getting a little bit deeper down into.
Okay. The Yard House is like 130 plus beers on tap. It's the new like pregame spot for the Lightning games. Mm-hmm. So if you keep going down, where do you go?
I mean, I would just go deep into Channel Side and I'd go to the tequila bar.
You're going past Water Street.
I am.
Okay.
I'm skipping it. And then I'm going to come back and end there.
Whew. All right. Yeah, she's going to stroll around. But essentially, there's Water Street. That's like the newest, best thing in Tampa. Again, Jeff Vinnick, Bill Gates, a small name there, dropped a ton of investment into this area. And just it looks like and feels like a whole nother city. I mean, the trolley runs through that can take you into Ybor if you really wanted to keep going. But we have Michelin star restaurants.
It's an upscale vibe for sure.
Yeah, 5-star hotel, Michelin restaurant, really nice bars that you can crawl into. I think I see Ric Flair there pretty much every other weekend. So little celebrity sightings every now and then. So anyway, that's the Riverwalk in a nutshell. I mean, quick version. We could keep going on it because it's just such an amazing thing. And folks, they're getting ready to expand it to the complete opposite side of the river and then back through with another development that's on the way, the YMCA redevelopment that's going to reconnect to Armature Works where we began the whole thing. So you can eventually make an entire circle. Yeah. Not yet, but coming soon. So I had to really dive into that because I think that's the biggest thing on the entire list now. And I don't think that she probably even knew that back when she wrote the book because that was a few years back. But now that's the update for you guys. Now, music, because it did talk about music here. Clearly, we have a bunch of concerts. I didn't see any of those concert venues in the book. But they talked about music at Busch Gardens. They have concert series, and I'll be honest, like it's more like B-rated, like I think oh my gosh, what's his name? Monty, yeah, like rapper kind of thing. Like Tone Loc. Like these are some like B-rated guys that I'm just like, really? They're still singing?
Yeah.
Those are the kind of concerts you kind of see sometimes. It's not like
You're not going to Kenny Chesney.
Yeah,
at
Justin
Busch
Timberlake's
Gardens.
not coming there. So I don't know. The music's all right. Maybe one will pop out that you really just had a thing for back in the 90s. And you're like, yeah, I want to go see them. But the Food and Wine Festival. So if I had to tell you, like, skip that, go to the Food and Wine Festival. I think they mentioned in the book, that hands down is like the best thing at Busch Gardens, aside from the roller coasters. Yes. But we're talking about food and wine, music, entertainment.
Yeah.
So for the adults, Food and Wine Festival is amazing. I mean, it has like, it's kind of like Epcot. Like every other stop is from a different country, a different taste of food, beverage. And I mean, it's just a great.
And they do have live music. At that
and
point.
They do have music throughout the whole thing. So absolutely. So let's keep moving on. Culture and history. All right. I'm not going to lie. Neither of us are really like art museum type people. My kids love the Children's Museum.
Yeah.
But there's one that caught me off guard, and I'm always open-minded. I'm open to try anything, right? That's the Chihuly collection. It's a museum that's in St. Pete. So now we cross the bridge from Tampa, go to our sister city, St. Pete, right in downtown. Have you been?
I have, yeah.
What did you think of it?
I would say I'm a little more artsy than you, but wouldn't call myself an artsy person. Yeah. I thought it was pretty incredible, like personally, just to see stuff of that size.
Yeah.
By the way, it's like blown glass.
Yep. So there are a ton of blown glass collection, just craziest, wildest, wacky designs and
color, like abstract. Just it's a very different, cool experience. You know, if you're in the area.
Yeah. I don't think that it's really easy to explain.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, blown glass sounds great. Like I'm not going to pay money for entrance. At least I wouldn't, until, you know, a few of my realtors that were taking folks out, they were like, man, you got to go see this. So I went. Again, I'm not coming from it from like an artsy angle. I'm coming it from like, I'm a big kid in a way. And I was like, wow, colors.
And the size, like it's.
But it blows you away. So I would absolutely suggest it. Yeah. I mean, even if you're not an artsy person like myself, if you are, then you'll really like it. But yeah, for me, it's just something different to do, different angle. I mean, you can't always be sports and food and drinking. Right. So, but the next one again comes from that big kid in me, right? Growing up in Tampa, you know, we have some of the best beaches in the entire country. I mean, you see it in all my videos. TripAdvisor every year comes out with the top 25 beaches in the entire country. And we're almost always have Clearwater Beach, St. Pete. You know, we go over to Siesta or Longboat, and those are almost always in there on top of the like 10 beaches, the smaller beaches that are all in between, right? That we always enjoy. So we're always growing up, and even now, once we have kids, it's like building sandcastles, right? Playing soccer on the beach, but playing with sandcastles too. It's just a must. So Pier 60 in Clearwater, right next to Frenchie's, where I told you, every year they have the annual sandcastle. What is it?
Sculpture. Sand
sculpture. To me, it's a sandcastle, but it's a sand sculpture event, and it's just like it's massive sculptures that they're just made out of sand, and like you look at it, you're like, I don't know how they did that.
No,
like it's super detailed.
And I mean, you know, we do have this like gorgeous sugar sand. It's extremely soft. It's extremely fine. And so like the fact that they're able to make these things out of the sand is like
and
crazy.
People are coming from all over the world to do this too. So just as a spectator, it's amazing to watch it evolve, to see the final product. And then it's a fun day because you know, up and down that Pier 60 area, it's just fun in general. And they'll have rides, they'll have food vendors out there. So it's a really, you know, fun. I want to say it's a week plus long event that they have. There's not just a one day in case you missed the first day.
Yeah.
All right, now we're gonna bring it back to Tampa.
Back to Tampa.
Down into Ybor City. It's a historic district, kind of the origins of Tampa in a way. A lot of old cigar factories. Now it's kind of like our Bourbon Street in New Orleans district. A lot of clubs and high-end restaurants. I almost say it's like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, right? By day, it's perfect for tourists.
Yeah. You
know, restaurants, hand-rolled cigars, just a really cool history, you know, or trip down history lane.
Yep.
Brick roads, all of our ornate old buildings, right? By night, It's Bourbon Street. It's crazy. Like, you know, maybe if that's your vibe, but 3 a.m., 2 a.m., the clubs let out. There's just drunk people everywhere, and it's a little bit wild. So you can pick and choose which one you like or do both. It doesn't matter. But part of that is that because of its long history, they have Ybor ghost tours.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not gonna lie. I've never done a ghost tour here because, one, I don't know if I want to get spooked out. Number two, I don't know, it's not my thing. That being said, our family did have a restaurant in Ybor City for many, many years. And the building we were in, the Centro Asturiano building, which is on Palma, Nebraska there, it's a big 3-story building, has a ballroom in it, has a downstairs.
Almost like a basement, if you will.
Yeah, our dining room was like 4,400 square foot, like basement, essentially. It's just a really cool building. I mean, it had a full concert style, 1,200 person theater in there.
Had a racquetball court.
Yeah, and a long history, right, of being an entertainment thing for over 100 years in Tampa. That building itself, a lot of history there, right? There's a few nights where if you've ever been in hospitality, you're working till 3 a.m. and you got to be back at 7 a.m. It's like, guess what? We've got showers in the gym. Shower and spend the night on a table and wake up in the next morning to get to work. So those nights, maybe call it old building, but there's some creaking and cracking.
Yeah, I would say yeah.
It gets a little spooky. Your hair will raise in your arms. So maybe we had our own ghost tour. I don't know. But if you're visiting, I would absolutely say to go on that tour.
Yeah. And
just kind of local fun fact I was thinking about as I'm talking about this. Most people don't know this, but at one point in time, the Tampa as a city was the number 3 mafia city in the country, right? You're talking New York, Chicago, Tampa. Al Capone had visited. We've had some major
Traficante.
Yeah, the Traficantes, right? We had some major players they flew under the radar. Like Tampa's always flew under the radar as like that underworld city. But we had, it was like Prohibition time. We had a lot of like sugarcane coming from Cuba and the islands, right? Because that sugarcane makes alcohol during Prohibition, right? It's a big deal. So the smuggling in and being Tampa being a major port in the state of Florida, it just made sense that Cuba was it. All the tobacco coming in for cigars. So, Cuba had a fun, long history. And back in those old mafia days, I'm sure there was some, crazy murders and stuff. Cigar City Mafia, if you ever want to read about it, that's a really cool book. But it'll tell you about that. So yeah, ghost tours, hey, maybe it's a thing. Try it out. I don't know. Let me check out this list. So that's a lot of what I pulled from this book. I mean, there's 100 things in here. I probably only talked about, 10, 15 of those things. Now we're locals. I want to give you my own suggestions that I didn't really see in the book, maybe because these projects have come along since then. Maybe they've evolved to where they weren't worth mentioning.
Yeah.
But what's something that you would name as a suggestion to folks right now? If you were visiting, if you lived here and you haven't checked it off your list of things to do, what's something you would suggest?
We covered the Rays games and stuff like that, and we kind of like the Dawn, we talked about St. Pete a little bit, but as a focus, like downtown St. Pete's pretty fun too.
I would argue that it's not come a long way. It's bigger.
Yeah.
And more concentrated at this point in time than Tampa downtown.
Yeah.
And so there's almost more to do. There's more walkability. They've got the trolley that literally is like a hop on, hop off free that can hit all the major points.
And it's a beautiful view. So
yeah. And for me, I love the restaurants. I love the pier, walking through there. I'm more of a St. Pete pier person than Central Ave, even though I've crawled Central Ave and I love that too. It's got, I had really good tacos there the other day, but yeah, I love the Central Ave. I think you mentioned the Canopy.
Yeah.
Being a great spot.
A really cool rooftop bar.
Canopy, if you ever want like sunset, have a drink in hand, rooftop bar, you could just
can't beat it.
Yeah, that's probably one of the top places in all of Tampa Bay to catch a sunset outside of maybe Pier 60, right? So that's her experience. For me, if I'm visiting, I got 24 hours or even just if you live here, like I said, one of my favorite experiences was a couple years ago. For my birthday, my wife chartered us a fishing boat. People forget how much bay, Gulf, combination we have of fishing, like inshore, outshore fishing. I kind of went the inshore fishing route because I didn't want to burn the whole day. I wanted to leave early in the morning and be back to pick up my kids by 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right? from school, of course. So we hit the water by 8 a.m. By 11, we already caught probably 10, 11 snapper. And our guide, our charter captain was like, hey, you want to keep fishing? What do you want to target? And I said, I've had a great day. I kind of want to just pop open a couple cold ones and unwind. And it was May going into June. So the water was like just warming up enough for a Floridian to get in. And so he dropped us off at like a little spoil island, which is like a sandbar. And we anchored up. He filleted one of our snappers with some La Segunda bread that we purposefully brought and made some, really good fresh fish sandwiches, sat in the water a little bit, just, crushed a fish sandwich, some cold beers. And to me, that was like a really relaxing day. Turn your cell phones off. Yeah. If any of you folks called me that day, sorry I didn't answer, but that's what I was doing for real estate. But either way, that it doesn't get much better than that day. I know sometimes people are like, oh, you chartered a boat. I don't have $400 or $500 to blow for that half day. Totally get it.
Yeah.
Get a kayak. You can easily kayak to some of these islands, especially like Dunedin, Clearwater. Like there's some small islands that you can go and trout fish. Mm-hmm. Super easy here. And then go to your island and make your own little adventure. And that's absolutely free. Mm-hmm. I used to do that back in college. So that's going to be my one suggestion. We have two more here for you. This video being shot in 2024, especially since we just crossed into May. April, the Michelin Guide comes to town. This was probably 1 to 2 years in the making that Michelin actually came to Tampa. We didn't have that before.
Yeah, we just got on the spotlight.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's like named best foodies, one of the best foodie cities in the country. And for good reason, because if you look at our Michelin Guide, last year we had 24 restaurants on the Michelin Guide. We had 3 restaurants with a 1-star, or 1 Michelin star. And now this April, they just came back. I was a little nervous. Like, are we going to lose our stars? Are we going to keep them? How does that work? And they actually added 2. So now we have 5 total Michelin stars. We have 2 Michelin Key Hotel, right? They're called Michelin Keys, but it's a hotel ratings. And we have a total of 30 on the Michelin Guide. So if you are a local, this is probably too much for visiting, but if you're a local, we kind of started just between us like a checklist of like going through these Michelin restaurants. And some of the restaurants we already mentioned are actually on that list of 30. And I just want to experience them again, just like the Chihuly Museum. I want to experience everything, every kind of food, see the vibe. I want to understand it. I want to enjoy it. So,
yeah. A lot of this stuff I feel like we did, growing up, but as an adult, it's a totally different experience because you're actually like reading into it and like, I don't know, you're paying attention in a different way now.
Yeah. And that's the beauty is like you get to experience it as a kid, then as an adult, then sometimes as an adult with your kids, right? So Tampa's super family friendly, but it's all about the things to do and all about the experiences. This last one to me is a really fun one. And it's not so narrowed down to just one event, but every weekend, our calendar of events is just packed, right? It's like sometimes people ask me like when they're moving here, hey, I want to live near the beaches. It's like, well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Think about really what your life looks like because you might only go to the beach once a month, maybe, because our weekend is just slammed, Yeah. And festivals. Every weekend, the calendar of events, there's a concert, there's a festival, there's something going on, but definitely once a month there's a festival.
Oh, yeah.
And some of my favorites are like the Pig Jig. The Pig Jig, they always have a headliner. I think Dierks Bentley is going to be the headliner this year. But essentially, it's just like 100, maybe 50. But let's just say with a 50 to 100 barbecue vendors or restaurants that are just throwing down on a barbecue competition. If you upgrade your ticket, you can actually walk through the pits, and it's almost like a Sam's Club. They're handing out samples, and you don't have to buy food because you just fill up.
Yeah.
And there's music all day.
Yeah.
You got opening acts, local bands, indie bands, and they're just playing music all day, live music on the Riverwalk. Curtis. No.
36. Yeah.
Oh, it was Julian B. Lane last time I went.
Okay.
But thousands of people out there having a good time. Drinks flowing, music's flowing. It's just a really fun festival. And it's like music, drinks, barbecue.
Yeah.
I don't know if it gets much better than that. And it goes to probably about 10 o'clock at night, all day.
Yes.
About 10 hours. So that's one of my favorites. Do you have one that stands out to you that you would say, hey, folks, festival?
I mean, coming up, just because it's the time, I think Margarita Fest is coming right now.
If you like the margaritas,
you know, and they have they pair it though, you know, so you've got a bunch of margarita vendors. You know, they'll have seltzers and just the tequilas, and you can mix it with whatever you want.
the
They
mezcals.
they have mezcal, yes.
Mezcal.
They have.
I haven't been drinking.
They'll have taco vendors. You know, so it's a really cool vibe. Again, there's music all day, and you know, there's different tiers. You can just kind of come in and walk around and kind of experience it like piece by piece if you want. You can get a VIP pass. There's just, I don't know. There's always stuff to do. Always music. Yep.
There you go. So folks, I hope this, you know, helped. Things to do, right? There's tons. I mean, this book had 100. We only went over like 15. For me, I've got way more than 100. I could do 100 with my eyes closed, from big to, you know, to focused in small hidden gems. But when you come into Tampa, if you visit Tampa, if you already live here, make yourself a checklist and just enjoy the city. Enjoy St. Pete, you know, Clearwater, Sarasota. There's so much around us, and everything is pretty much under an hour drive no matter where you go. Most things are 30 minutes, 20 minutes away. So enjoy the city, you know, follow our channel. We're always talking about where to live, the best things to do, and even new developments and happenings, right? Join us on the next podcast. Visit our channel. Until that next video, we'll catch you later.